After my university studies, I began to look for opportunities that tied with what I sensed were my natural aptitudes. And I felt that I had a creative streak.
Okay.
I used to write a lot of poetry and essays, and therefore I began to look at platforms to express myself. Indeed, initial job opportunities that I was seeking was to be a copywriter in advertising agencies. So that really was the key drive for looking at such opportunities initially in advertising. And it was really fortuitous that I found myself in marketing, because at the start I didn't know a lot about marketing. I had a sense of what advertising was. I knew advertising was a part of marketing, but I didn't know the nitty-gritty of marketing. So I was opportuned to get moved into a marketing function when I started my career at Cadbury, and that's really where I got to learn about marketing. So it was really, really fortuitous. I think if you have the required skills,
Okay.
it is possible. So I do not think that it is a limiting factor if you didn't study at university level for a degree in marketing.
Okay.
What I think is important is, do you have the passion for marketing? Do you have the creative skills required? Do you have a sense of strategy and analysis, which are required ingredients to be successful in marketing? And do you also have the ability to connect with people? Because a key part of marketing is being to understand people behavior in order to be able to influence them. So not having a degree is not necessarily limiting, but it's important that if you have those key skills, you can then read up and develop the required knowledge to be able to do well in marketing.
Right.
It has been exciting.
Okay.
As I said, it was for teachers that I found myself starting off a career in marketing, even though that's what I was kind of looking for at the beginning.
Okay.
So I started my career in marketing with a master's in biochemistry, and got fortunate to get a job with Cadbury in Nigeria as a management trainee,
Okay.
and then got a lot of training both on the job and also through reading around marketing. And it's really been exciting working on many of the key brands in Nigeria and across Africa, and also looking at working on global brands as well. So it truly has been an exciting experience. I think one that comes ready to mind is being asked to manage the Bombita brand
Okay.
in Nigeria less than 2 years after starting my career in marketing. So for me, that was huge. And I must confess that initially I was terrified being given such responsibilities, but I got a lot of support from people in the team, both people ahead of me in marketing, people around me, various stakeholders that I worked with. So that was a key milestone, being asked to manage the Bombita brand, and subsequently managing the brand for a period over 10 years, and being part of various relaunches of the brand, and that which reinvigorated the brand and just sustained its leadership in Nigeria. So that was a key milestone. Another one was subsequently having managed the Bombita brand, being given an opportunity to work in sales and managing field sales operation across Nigeria. Now that was really important for me because it then gave me a more rounded commercial experience and gave me a more understanding of challenges that brands face within the marketplace.
Okay.
And if I may mention a third highlight was the opportunity I had to become marketing director for Cadbury East and Central Africa.
Okay.
And that just raised my level of responsibilities, leadership that I had to bring to bear within the marketing context. Okay, this is quite a controversial topic, but I have a view that marketing is the umbrella, and that sales is a subset of marketing.
Okay.
And the reason why I say this is that classically you have the 4 Ps. So there's the product, there is the price, there is the place, there is the promotion part. My belief is that sales addresses the place component of marketing, in that sales drives the availability of products to the appropriate place, and then creates the platform for consumers to buy the product at the price that is required. First of all, brands will always have challenges. Competition is always live. So the issue is how to understand how to beat competition. The days when I managed Bonvita, as an example, Milo was a major competition, and therefore a key challenge was how were we able to sustain leadership for Bonvita. So constantly it was a major battle. Knew what competition was doing or could do, and developing strategies to override competition and the activities. So competition obviously was always a challenge. Also, from an internal perspective, is getting stakeholders within the various companies that I've worked with to see your point of view in some of the strategies that you wanted to implement. So one of the things I've learned from that is a marketing person will have ideas, but you need to always find ways to get buy-in from various stakeholders. And so it was now and then a challenge, and the key thing was to look at how could we get buy-in, how could I get buy-in from various stakeholders. One is be able to show the importance of what you wanted to do. And also ensuring that what you wanted to do aligns with the overall corporate objective. So the beginning point was alignment with the overall goals of the business, and showing that what you want to do will help deliver those objectives. One of the key things that I found useful and which really important for marketers is to get even closer to the numbers. The business is about numbers. It's about delivering revenues. It's about delivering the bottom line. Therefore, marketers being close to their numbers, knowing their numbers, and seeing how they can use metrics to justify what activities, what advertising, what promotions that they want to do, helps to get increasing buy-in from stakeholders. I think it's difficult to say one is more effective. I think it's about utilizing the various elements of the marketing mix and ensuring that they're all mutually reinforcing. I think that getting the product right is important. I think getting the packaging right is important. Pricing is very critical, getting the appropriate price points. Selecting what elements of promotion, whether it's advertising, whether it is sales promotions, whether it's PR, is also important. And also ensuring availability. So it's about looking at all the various elements of the marketing mix and ensuring that they are mutually reinforcing. In some cases, one aspect may over-index depending on what the market context is at any point in time, but you cannot always select one and assume that it will work always across different contexts. I think one, the utilization of metrics, measurements, is very important. Having clear objectives before we put in place strategies, and then evaluating those strategies against key metrics. I think there can be increasing collaboration amongst marketers across, so that we can take learnings from various markets and various strategies that we implement. And clearly, this is the digital age. Marketers need to be a lot more experts in digital and not just mouth that is digital age. We need to get a lot more hands-on in utilizing digital to drive our brands.
Okay.
I think they have become increasingly more sales-oriented because of the pressure from various businesses.
Okay.
And clearly, one, I think marketers need to be focused on selling because it is about the numbers. They need to be able to show the business that they're delivering.
Okay.
The key point is, how are those sales delivered? Is it only about the short term, or is there also a big picture, long-term perspective?
Okay.
It's about a critical balance, in my view. And therefore, marketers need to be able to balance the short-term pressures from businesses with a bigger picture, long-term view to building brand equity.
Okay.
Because if you neglect building brand equity on the short term, it will come back to haunt you in the future.
Okay.
So it's about a balance. And the challenge marketers face is to be able to sell that balance to internal stakeholders and show that that marketers, we can put in place short-term plans that help to deliver revenues in the short term, but at the same time also have in place strategies that help to build the brands on the long term and ensure that future sales can happen.
Okay.
Mentorship is critical, it's important,
Okay.
because no one person knows it all. And I think that marketers need to be able to look at creating platforms where either they are mentoring people or they are being mentored by other people, because sharing experiences helps people to grow.
Mentored?
I was mentored. Yes, I would say yes, I was mentored.
Okay.
And I hesitated briefly because apart from being mentored, I also had role models that may not have known that they were my role models. So I learned quite a bit from observation.
Okay.
So I also had people who were my role models in marketing. I also had a couple of people who mentored me a bit formally. One, read a lot. Extremely important.
Okay.
And do not limit reading to just passing exams, but reading widely.
Okay.
Network with people you can learn from, you can share learnings and experiences. I think it's good to have a role model, even if you don't have a mentor,
Okay.
but having a mentor also helps.
Okay.
So those are three things that I would say a young person should be looking out for.
Okay.
Okay, three top books that I would recommend, which have made a difference for me as far as my marketing career is concerned. One is The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Ries and Jack Trout. I like the book because it's easy to read, but also has many case studies that just opens up the mind.
Okay.
Secondly is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell, because again, easy to read, but also just speaks a lot about leadership with a lot of examples. And I think that every marketer should be interested in leadership. And the third book is Failing Forward also by John Maxwell, because it just teaches you that life is full of challenges and obstacles, but success comes from when you overcome what may have been termed as a failure. Okay, I was inspired because I wrote this and I spoke about this while I worked and lived in Kenya.
Okay.
I was marketing director for Cadbury at the time. And having worked in Nigeria and then looking at the experience in Kenya, I saw that there were some similarities and some differences, and developed certain perspectives about how I think things could be done perhaps differently and better. One of the key things that I observed was that there was not enough collaboration between East and West Africa from a marketing perspective and also from a business perspective. And I came up with a firm persuasion that the growth of our economies in Africa will be driven by having a better understanding of various markets, increasing shared understanding across different markets, and looking at opportunities to collaborate to drive our various economies. And that really was the inspiration to write about that. And I began to advocate for a lot more economic relationships between various countries in Africa. I think one which is significant of note is in the year 2000, when we had to radically change the entire marketing mix of Bonvita.
Okay.
The Bonvita brand equity was on the decline. Consumers were beginning to say that compared with Milo, the product was not good. Equity-wise, Milo was seen as a stronger brand, even though from a sales volume perspective, Bonvita was still number one. So we did a thorough evaluation of the Bonvita brand and decided that we need to modify its marketing mix. So we started from the product. We reformulated the product so that it was better tasting, had a better appearance. Consumers were looking for a creamier product. So we modified the product.
Okay.
We also modified the packaging.
Okay.
And by the way, I am an increasing advocate to say that packaging stripped away from product as a key element of the marketing mix. So I tend not to just talk about the product, I talk about the packaging, because my experience shows that packaging is really important part of the marketing mix. So we looked at the packaging and changed the design. Bonvita before then, for the prior 40 years, had been in brown and cream packaging. So we modified it, changed it to purple to make it a lot more premium looking. We introduced for the first time in Nigeria live models. So we had a mother and two kids on the packaging. So we upstaged the packaging material. Price, we more or less retained because we're trying to build traction with consumers. But from the promotional perspective, we changed the advertising. We had a lot of promotions that were focused on different stakeholders. For example, we ran the Bonvita Magic Flight, which was a promotion that took children abroad to just increase the equity. We launched a major sponsorship, the Bonvita Teachers Awards, because we found that teachers were key stakeholders that had an influence on children. And we repositioned the brand overall to focus a lot more on children rather than the generic family platform that it had always been. Maybe read some light-hearted literature.
Okay.
Sleep when I have the opportunity. And then I'm also involved in some community work, some under the church platform, and also spend time mentoring people.